here in London.
Well, quickly, I'll tell you some of the things that are going on. I think we got re-elected back in 2012 on a manifesto to deliver jobs and growth, and that is really happening a lot. You're seeing huge investments coming into London. I was going to mention to Nick that only yesterday we did an amazing agreement with Mr. Zhang of the Greenland company in China, who are going to be building, I think, a skyscraper in Canary Wharf that's even taller than the current than One Canada Square, than the current tallest tower there. They've just agreed that they're going to be announcing that today, and they're building a wonderful thing down in Vauxhall. And what we're seeing is huge international confidence in London. But what I want to do, Ali, is to convert that investment into prosperity for all Londoners. So some of the things we're focusing on are expanding the London living wage, getting companies to think about some of the low-paid people in the city and helping them as much as we possibly can, getting Londoners into work, bearing down on the cost of living. London is an amazing motor of jobs and opportunities, but I want to see those opportunities going to young Londoners. And that's why we put so much emphasis on the apprenticeship programme, where we've done, I think, more than 100,000, 130,000 perhaps apprentices already. But we need to get up to 250,000 by the end of my mayoralty, and that is going to be a very, very tall order. But we're being supported by London businesses. Ali, there are loads of other.
Who's going in that tower? Who's going in that new tower?
That is the question, because obviously there will be some affordable housing, but it won't be all affordable housing. You simply can't do that. But what these developments do, is they trigger the creation of more housing all round. And there is space in London. People say, oh my goodness, where are all these people going to go? And it's going to lead to the desecration of our neighbourhoods. Actually, the population of London is currently still lower than it was in 1939. And there is space. We can build beautiful homes. We can build it sensitively. We can build on brownfield sites, 33 brownfield opportunity areas, and we are doing so. We've already built a record number of affordable homes over this mayoralty.
Anything else other than just buildings, though, Boris?
Well, there's a beautiful new garden bridge that you may have seen in the papers, Ali. The extraordinary structure that we're going to be doing across. We're now consulting on planning permission. Is going to be going in the course of the next couple of months.
Where's that going?
Oh, you know about this, Nick. Stupendous thing that is.
Is this like the old style London Bridge?
No,
no,
it's more beautiful even than that. This is a bridge that will span the river, shooting across from the Temple Tube Station, making landfall there on the South Bank, right by LWT. It will be fronded with beautiful, with trees, with a gorgeous canopy of leaves, designed by Thomas Heatherwick, the
man who did
designer of the bus and the Olympic cauldron.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing project.
When am I going to be able to walk on that?
By 2017, I would say at the very latest, and it will start. We think we're very, as I say, they're going in for planning permission very shortly. And people say, well, and this will, by the way, this is not the only bridge we're going to be, new bridge we're going to be building in London. We need to build, in my view, a series of bridges to the east of Tower Bridge. That's where the growth, the opportunity is for London towards the east of the city.
Fantastic ambition, Ali.
Many people who drive in London, such as me, know that the traffic has just got worse since the congestion charge. And do you know the reason why, Boris?
I do, but go on.
Well, the reason is because before you came into office, the previous mayor, Mr. Livingston, coupled with, I suppose, the present Transport Secretary at the time, decided to phase traffic lights at lots of busy hundreds of junctions, which was detrimental to the movement of traffic. And this took place at the time when Thames Water were digging up the roads and other utilities, and of course it was before Crossrail and everything else. And that is the cause of the traffic problems. Yeah. And you didn't need a congestion charge to help traffic. So what have you got? You promised that you would sort out the traffic lights when you came to office, and you haven't done it.
Well, we in fact we have, and we've done. I think about 1,000 traffic lights we've rephased. And the difficulty is with trying to take out a traffic light. And believe me, I have really sweated over this, and I've had the TfL roads team in time and time again.
The TfL are useless at keeping traffic moving generally.
Well, actually, if you look at what's happening, average road speeds have gone up fractionally. I won't say it's
virtually what we were doing in the late 1800s.
On the congestion charge, and I hear what you say. I don't think that the congestion charge itself is the cause of the congestion. I think the problem actually is the one you're alluding to. It is the constant battle for road space. I mean, often I'll come on this show and I will have a lot of people from the cycling world saying, what are you doing to make London safer for cyclists? Why can't we have more cycle? In fact, I had a guy talking to me on the just as I was cycling in this morning, saying, why can't we have more cycle-only lanes? It's crazy. Now, every time you put in an intervention like that, and you see what we've done, for instance, at Bow, from the Bow roundabout to Stratford, you put in a huge new cycle lane. Every time you do that, Stanley, you're taking out road space that people like you basically want to use, and that is, I'm afraid, the reason why you do have congestion in London. It is the sheer competition for what is very, very limited road space. TfL are working flat out to keep the thing moving and to rephase traffic lights so as to speed it up.
Going up?
We are consulting.
No, but do you support it?
I will make my mind up when the people have spoken in their consultation.
You're a Conservative, and you would be possibly then in support of charging more people to go to work in the morning.
I'll look at it. I mean, it hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone up since 2009.
Well, can I tell you what the public consultation is going to say? Right, you'll have a small minority of cyclists. There you go. Most people would say no. So what then will you do?
Yeah, you speak for the people.
I do. Yes, I speak for them every single working day of my life, and I have done for a number of years. So I'm telling you what you will find out. So
you drive in. Yeah.
No, I don't. Well, someone drives me. It's a lovely life. But never mind how I get to work.
I hope you pay your own congestion charge, or is it paid for by LBC?
It's totally irrelevant. It's paid for by the company. I put it to you, you are a Conservative and you support the idea.
You launder your congestion charge. You launder your congestion charge.
You support the launder. You support
the idea. You pass it through the
Right.
expenses department.
Listen, there's no point fixing me with a gaze like a polar vortex. Just answer the question. You support the idea of charging more people to go to work as a Conservative. You don't, precisely. So why are you allowing this to go on?
We will look at it. I'm interested in the discussion. It hasn't gone up since 2009. It wasn't, to be honest, Nick, if you look back at the last
How much was it when it was introduced?
At the last mayoral election.
How much was it when it was introduced?
Well, Livingston, I can't remember. It's back in the Paleolithic age when under the previous Diplodocus.
Fiver.
There you go. But that was, as I say, back in the Cretaceous.
Is it a charge or is it a tax?
The intention of the congestion charge is to minimise congestion in London, as it says on the tin. As Stanley in Redbridge has pointed out, we still have a problem with congestion. But if you look at what's going on our roads, that congestion is very largely caused by congestion. Would unquestionably be worse if it were not for the congestion charge, and that is, I think, indisputable. It does have a deterrent effect upon traffic. My anxiety about it, Nick, is basically the same as yours, which is that it is a potentially very regressive charge in that it falls just as heavily on people who absolutely have to drive their vehicles into central London, or as it does, falls on plutocrats riding in their LBC funded limos who don't actually pay it themselves, and so that is the issue for me. And goes back to what I was saying to Ali earlier on. I want London to be more affordable for everybody. I will look at the results of this congestion charge consultation, and we'll see how we go. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. In the last mayoral election, if you remember, in 2012, this was not a big thing at the hustings. It never came. Not even here. I mean, we had all sorts of arguments, all sorts of things. The congestion charge didn't really come up.
All right. Okay, we move on. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley, very much indeed. We go to Philip in Edmonton.
Hello.
Go ahead, Philip. You're on the radio.
Hello. I wanted to talk to you about New Year's Eve celebration, the fireworks celebrations down on the Thames. I wondered what the thinking was in moving the disability bay from the embankment across to St Thomas's Hospital, and the chaos that caused by the regular wheelchair users turning up to the embankment and being thrust into a crowd of hundreds of thousands of people,
Philip,
putting everybody at danger.
Philip, I'm going to have to sort of preemptively apologise to you for two reasons, both for your inconvenience and also because I'm afraid I don't know the details of what happened.
Philip, so you have some form of disability, do you, sir?
I don't, but I was involved by trying to protect the disabled.
I see.
Because
in previous years, you've gone where? Where have you looked at the lights from in previous years?
I always just go down to the embankment, but the disabled bay is on the embankment. Well, it used to be on the embankment.
But it's only we have a brief amount of time. And it was moved. Where was it moved to, Philip?
It was moved to St Thomas's Hospital.
Right.
So the disabled were kind of. And the disabled area was given across to a corporate sponsor.
Okay. Right, Philip. I tell you what I will do. I apologise to you for what took place. I'm afraid I'm going to have to come back to you, and we will get you a full explanation. We will try and learn from what you've said, and if we can do it better next year, of course, we will. Just one thing. I just want to make one point.
Stay on the line, Philip, and we'll give you some details.
Make one point back, by the way, I totally forgot to make, obviously, to Stanley in Redbridge, who was the guy who actually got rid of half of the congestion charge. Nobody ever remembers these.
We've moved on from.
I know. Come on. I got rid. I know, it's worth pointing out. I got rid of the whole Western Extension zone. Come on, I'm allowed to claim credit for what I've done. Tony in Tottenham, can we come to you next?
Tony, you're on the radio. Go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, Nick. Good morning, Boris.
Good morning, Tony.
Happy New Year. First-time caller. I'm going to make my point short and brief. I reiterate what Stanley said, the previous caller,
on congestion,
in the sense of in relation to the propaganda in causing the congestion.
Yeah.
But also, I wanted to know, when the congestion charge was implemented, there was a massive campaign about us drivers converting our cars to LPG.
Yeah.
Whereby it emits low emissions, basically air.
Yeah.
And we'll be exempt from the congestion charge. That hasn't been happening. We were exempt, and then Boris has now included us in the congestion charge. And furthermore,
I thought if you're on LPG, I think if you have a low carbon emission vehicle, that you should still be exempt.
Are you sure of that?
No. I am sure of that.
Are you sure of that?
I still have to pay the congestion charge because I've been told that if the car wasn't manufactured with LPG, then you have to pay for the congestion charge. And meanwhile, cars have only been manufactured with LPG from 2012, 2011.
Right.
Let us find out.
Tony,
more
can I get back to you? That sounds. I must say that does sound unfair. The intention of the congestion charge is also to have a beneficial effect on air quality, which has been greatly improving in London. The air that we're really cracking down on the NOx and on the CO2. I will find out about your LPG complaint, and if client, obviously we will make sure we let you off.
Tony, stay on the line as well. We'll take some quick as we can, please.
Edward in Palmer's Green.
Good morning.
Good morning, Edward.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Good morning, Nick Ferrari.
Hello.
Yeah. Basically, I'm ringing up to ask the Mayor what he's doing regarding the streets of London. Cleanliness, basically.
The cleanliness?
I find that the streets of London are very, very dirty. The cleaning, the rubbish that's put on outside and etc.
Yeah.
I'm actually from the West Indies. I'm a very proud and patriotic to this country. And to me, I've travelled, Eastern European and other countries, and it always seems to be a lot cleaner than London.
Well, I'm okay. Well, obviously, I have to take that criticism very humbly and sincerely. I'm thinking actually when you ask people that, I think litter and the general look of streets is their number one environmental concern. But I mean, like you, I've travelled around a bit, and I have to say, I often think London looks fantastic. Yes, there are areas, there are streets which do need attention, and very often I'm afraid that this is the job of the boroughs. They're there primarily to look after the streets. We do have great big capital clean-up campaigns, Edward. We run them through Team London. We support voluntary efforts to pick up litter, to clean up the city, to improve the look of the city. If you want to get involved in that, if you feel that you've got a lot to contribute to that, then please do, because we would be very, very happy to enlist you or to to find out the areas which you think need improvement and to try to target them. And Veronica Wadley in my office runs Team London, and she's the person to talk to.
Give us your details. We'll put you in touch with Veronica Wadley. I have to say, I think London streets normally seem pretty clear to me, but I'm grateful. We pause briefly to go back in time to a call last year, Mr. Mayor, you took from Michael in Blackheath, who was a shopkeeper affected by the riots.
Michael in Blackheath, yes.
I'm one of many people still waiting to be compensated by the police authorities for non-attendance to my business that was attacked in the riots. The Metropolitan Police wrote to me and said that after collecting certain footage from CCTV, that they deemed that my incident didn't fall under the jurisdiction of a riot.
Michael, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I think we're going to have to take this up. We'll get onto the police in your area and see what we can do to help.
Michael joins me again from Blackheath. Michael, what's happened most recently? Good morning.
Morning, Nick. I've done what I was requested by the Metropolitan Police in producing some more evidence from eyewitnesses of taking statements from and seeing what took place on that awful evening. With that in place of the Metropolitan Police and having, they've still come back to me yet again stating that, in their opinion, it wasn't a riot. And here I am 2 years on, still left high and dry.
And you're one of more than 130 people who've claimed compensation. Doesn't mean necessarily, of course, they're all valid. Who've claimed compensation, have yet to receive a single penny. Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think, Michael, I'm very sorry, obviously, because we did have this conversation and my people have followed it up as diligently as they possibly can. And I'm sorry that it hasn't been possible to get you the result that you want. And what I can say is that I know... because I personally asked about it this morning because I had a feeling this would come up. I know that the Deputy Mayor for Policing Crime, Stephen Greenhalgh, did look at this case himself, and unfortunately, I'm very sorry to say, is under the terms of the Riot Damages Act, it just did not seem possible to compensate you in the way that you want, and I'm obviously very sorry about that. And it is disappointing. One of the difficulties is the framing of the RDA and the government's reluctance to extend its terms, because obviously what they worry about is that if you define it too loosely, the government will become liable for many more acts of vandalism or whatever that take place in the normal course of events.
Quick response from you, Michael.
Well, I just don't agree with that at all. When I've given eyewitness statements proving that your criteria that's stipulated in that Riot Act is 12 people or more, and I sustained gangs of youths attacking the business.
I don't think it's the mayor's; it's the Met Police's guidelines. I think you have to satisfy as opposed to Mayor.
But no, but I mean, it comes to the same thing. And Michael, well, all I can say is, I'm very sorry that the result hasn't gone your way. I can assure you that this was looked at very carefully by Deputy Mayor Stephen Greenhalgh. We have been over it several times now, and what I would say is that most people have now settled their claims. There was a story the other day saying 16% had. That's not actually true. We went into the figures. It's only about 4% that are still not settled. And some of these cases, like Michael's, are really very difficult. And I apologise to you, Michael, that we haven't been able to give you a result that you wanted. But I'm afraid there seems very little more under the terms of the current law that I can do.
Michael, thank you for that. Can I ask a question? In the news today, the immigration is a hot topic. Where do you stand, Mr. Mayor? Where do you stand in the dispute between the Prime Minister, who wants to try and limit the numbers, and the Business Secretary, who said it's impractical so to do?
Well, got to step back a bit. Well, how did this whole thing go wrong? Two reasons. Labour took a decision back in the 1990s to basically throw open the doors and to relax controls on illegal immigration in such a way that the local authorities, the government, the state of the country as a whole completely lost a grip on who was coming in. That was a complete failure of government, and that is very largely the root of the current anxiety about immigration. Now, the second problem we've got is that under the terms of our membership of the EU, you cannot stop free movement of people within the 27-nation bloc. Now, I think that is, for me, that's a real concern because when we joined the common market in 1973 and then a referendum in 1975, we were joining a unit, a much smaller group of nations that were much closer in their economic circumstances than the great mass of it's 500 million people, it's 27 countries, you've got huge divergences in benefit systems and so on. Right. Where I think the Prime Minister is completely right is to say, look, we don't want to be slamming up the drawbridge, saying, being completely horrible to people. We're going to say, look, if you want to come and work here, you can do that, but there should be a period before which you can claim all benefits. And it seems entirely reasonable to me, as we discussed, I think, when we met before Christmas, that you should extend that to 2 years. And the second thing, I think he's, by the way, I think he's right about this business about child benefit. Why should British taxpayers be paying the child benefit of people who may be working in Britain but whose children are living in Poland? Now, the payment of benefits, your system for paying benefits, actually is one of those areas under EU law that is devolved to governments. We have freedom to decide this. We can decide who qualifies for child benefit. You've just seen it. The government's just changed the rules. There's no reason at all, in my view, why that anomaly should not be corrected. And as you saw, Nick Clegg said, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that." Well, why not? Why can't we do that? And my general view on this is get a grip on illegal immigration, crack down on that, restore confidence to the system. I think very largely the government is doing that and has done that. But number two, don't be realistic about the way Britain acts as a magnet for people whose benefits systems in their own countries are much, much less generous, and put in measures to stop us acting as such a magnet, such as extending the period before which you can qualify. But what I don't think I would like to see is us saying to every talented person, hardworking person around the European Union who wants to come here and contribute to our society, or indeed around the world, right, or to students in India or China who want to come and study.
I wouldn't want to broadly right.
I think he's broadly right. You've got to say this is something that is obviously of massive public concern. Yep. You've got to take it. All politicians have got to take it seriously. I think all politicians have been very, very slow to understand the extent of public concern about this. You've got to crack down on the illegals, and you've got to make it more difficult for people to claim benefits. And in that way, I think it is entirely legitimate for nation states to take back a bit of control of their borders.
While you mention your good friend Nick Clegg, he's also in the news. He's been criticising your Conservative colleague George Osborne for his talk yesterday about the budget. And in Mr. Clegg's views, what we heard from George Osborne was unfair. It was almost economically illiterate and extreme. How do you respond to Mr. Clegg's views?
Well, I don't want to get into some sort of endless ding-dong with poor old Cleggers. That he's there to fulfil a very important ceremonial function as David Cameron's kind of lapdog come prophylactic protection device for all the difficult things that David Cameron has to do that cheese off the rest of the...
I've heard it called that before.
Well, you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean. I don't think I want to hear what you mean in that particular
idea.
Well,
he's a kind of shield. He's a lapdog who's been sort of skinned and turned into a shield to protect the.
And he's wrong when he says that George Osborne is only looking down one particular route, which is to be extreme, to be verging on the economic illiterate, and to be unfair.
Well, of course he's wrong in saying that. What I think George is right is in saying that there is more to be done in getting the deficit under control and getting borrowing under control and in getting
but just targeting working people.
And what I think the coalition is doing is they think that nothing should be. They should be looking at all areas of public spending, in my view. And I would say that I am still slightly perplexed about why we contribute aid money to some of these countries that are on the path to prosperity. But that there are powerful
you mean foreign aid?
There are powerful.
You have concerns with the foreign aid?
Well,
budget.
I mean, I sometimes wonder about all of the programs,
such as.
Do you know what? One of the great things about being Mayor of London is I don't run the foreign aid budget, and my job is my job, and Justine Greening does a fantastic job and has exactly the right perspective on it. In my view, Richard in Streatham.
Morning, Nick. Morning, Boris.
Hello, Richard.
Boris, how are you both?
I am very well.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that.
We're both fine.
No, I just got... That's cool. Just got a quick question about the proposed cycle route in the sky, and if there was really any truth in that, and if there was,
it is
how much it's likely to cost, and if
Richard, I don't want to disappoint people too much on this.
Explain what it is, Mr. Mayor.
Bleak early January day. Well, I saw it. I'm afraid just on the news. Well, actually, I've seen. They came and presented it to us a while back, and this is an idea for a kind of route in the sky. Do you remember Scalextrics? Do you ever do Scalextrics? And you could get those long loopy bits that ran very high, right?
Yes.
Or there was a kind of Lego version, not Lego, the Matchbox cars.
Yeah.
When you have a kid, you have those orangey things where you could run Matchbox. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
That was the kind of idea, running in great loops across the city. It would be fantastically expensive, Richard. I don't, as a cyclist, think it is actually what the city needs. What we need is more safety measures. We need better roads. We need better protection for cyclists of all kinds. We need investment in our streets, and that's what we're doing, and better education for cyclists and for lorry drivers. And by the way, one thing I think I want to pay tribute, if I can, to the work of the Met over the last
yes, I was going to say, will that continue?
Weeks. I think it's been outstanding. They've, as everybody knows, they find a huge number of
14,000
cyclists.
No, those are all cyclists, motorists, lorry drivers, everybody.
And actually, most of the fines have gone to motorists. They're not just picking on cyclists, but it goes back to the point that we were trying to make when there was a spate of very, very sad accidents. That often, there are two sides to the problem.
In the light of those accidents, and every single one of us, of course, celebrates the fact that there have been no other fatalities.
Yeah.
Were you right to challenge the views and recommendations of the senior coroner who looked at the cause of two fatalities at Cycle Superhighway 2? This is Mary Hassel, who said that your highways had created, not you, but your highways created a false sense of security. There was no evidence to support necessarily that they were a safer way for cyclists. Do you regret now querying that?
No, I think actually you have to look at the whole letter that we wrote in response to Mary Hassel, and actually it was a very detailed response to her, very helpful findings. And what I've said many times to you, Nick, yes. We are totally humble about this. We will make changes we will make all the changes we can, that we practically can, to make cycling safer. But I cannot agree with every single recommendation that is made to me when TfL traffic engineers who dedicated their lives to sorting out these problems actually tell me the exact opposite. And so it is often very, very difficult to oblige the demands of cyclists, no matter how legitimate and how commonsensical they may sound.
Coming up after the news, a surprise report from Mayor Boris Johnson that might bring one of his ambitions back down to earth. You're listening to LBC 97.3, 9:31. Time for the news, Lisa Aziz.
London Mayor Boris Johnson's admitted to LBC 97.3 he has concerns over raising the congestion charge.
It is a potentially very regressive charge. I want London to be more affordable for everybody. I will look at the results of this congestion charge consultation and we'll see how we go.
Transport for London yesterday announced it's consulting on increasing the daily fee from £10 to £11.50. Parts of America are facing further record low temperatures. The coldest, most dangerous blast of polar air in decades has already closed schools and grounded thousands of flights. People are being warned of instant frostbite if they go outside. A group of MPs is worried further government cuts will affect our future response to flooding emergencies. It's as more than 100 flood warnings are in place across Britain, including 51 in London and the South East. New car sales have reached a 6-year high. In 2013, nearly 2.3 million cars were registered, a 10.8% increase on the year before. At 9:15, the FTSE was up 13 at 67.43. London's travelling queue, Mortlake Road on the South Circular, remains closed southbound. That's for emergency repairs between Kew Green and the retail park there, with delays now back to Chiswick. And London's weather windy with sunshine and scattered showers, some of them heavy, highs of 11 Celsius. Right now in Fleet Street, it's 9 degrees. LBC 97.3, it's 9:33.
This is LBC 97.3.
If you run a business and you're near a computer, type the name of your company into Google now. Chances are everything you find will be good. But all it takes is one negative review and your reputation on any kind of digital and social media site can change just like that. Reputation.com can manage and improve your brand's image online to make sure potential customers find out about the good reputation you've worked so hard to build up. For a free report on your online reputation and to find out how we can help, visit Reputation.com.
So, would you rather grab a minicab or grab a Greyhound? Normally, minicab would beat Greyhound. Their bony backs make for a most uncomfortable ride. However, if that Greyhound is a Greyhound car, then Greyhound beats minicab any day. Call centre busy? Book instantly using our free iPhone and Android apps and keep track of your Greyhound car in real time. Greyhoundcars.co.uk. Running all over London, all day, every day.
The Sony Centre sale is big in every way. Get a 47-inch W805 smart TV with a huge £200 off. Get £700 off a 65-inch X9 4K TV with 5-year warranty and a free Ultra HD Blu-ray player worth £190. And there are enormous savings on all Sony headphones. Now that is massive. The big Sony Centre sale. Now on while stocks last at our flagship UK store, Tottenham Court Road. Sony.
LBC 97.3. Call 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC 973. London's biggest conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
We're back on Ask Boris, and I can tell you what he's going to ask me about because he's given the game away. He's returning to his vendetta against the cable car. Nick, what's your problem with the cable car this morning?
I like the way the show's going. I have to put it to you, Mr. Mayor, that for every day since...
Sorry, the Emirates Airline, as it should probably be called, in recognition,
the item, not me.
In recognition of the stupendous sums of sponsorship that Emirates have put into it.
Well, I'm talking about £26 million.
£36 million
I'm talking about the
26
that taxpayers have put in.
Right. Well, let's talk about that.
Christmas Eve, for every day since Christmas Eve, it has been shut for part of the day.
Well, come on.
Due to weather, for every single day.
I don't know whether you have noticed, or whether you actually stick your head out of your huge LBC funded limo as you're escorted, hermetically from your home to the LBC.
So we looked at it another
the LBC
way.
offices, but it is very windy out there.
So we looked
and
at
we've been having a very blowy winter.
We looked at it another way. We looked at the total number of people on the cable car for the week ending 5th of January 2013. 45,192. Everybody just remember the number 45,000.
Yeah, but it was less windy then.
For this week, it's 23,158.
But that's totally loot. You've just explained the
number of users needed to make it financially viable is 16,500 a day. Let's cross to the cable car. LBC 97.3 reporter Tom Swarbrick is doing his Where Eagles Dare act, and he's midway across. Tom, you're through. Is it busy this morning?
Oh, man, it is absolutely rammed. I think I've seen about 16 people use this.
Well, they're very lucky and they're having a wonderful ride. I'm sure you are, Tom.
We are rocking rather alarmingly from side to side.
Are you? Are you enjoying it?
Well, let me give you 1 second.
Are you going to sue LBC for making you get up in a difficult and dangerous situation?
Let me see if I get down. Then I might make a decision.
Well, listen,
Tom, how many people? Let me take over. Tom, how many people? How long have you been there? How many people have you seen?
This is called Ask Boris. This show, not Ask Ferrari.
Well, it'll be rather one-sided. Let's just find out some facts, Mr. Mayor. How many people have used it, Tom?
So far today, 16 daring adventurers have got on it. We know that there are only 4 daily commuters who use it every day.
No, that's that.
No, Mr. Boris, Mr. Mayor, we've met 3 of them. Peter is one of them. He is the most ardent of Dangle-Ray fans, but even he, Mr. Mayor, is losing patience.
It is frustrating sometimes. It was closed yesterday morning, and yesterday morning it was a little bit unfortunate because the website was behind the times, the app that I've got. And
so did you come down here?
I did, yeah, but I just nip across there. The drivers don't go until I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
But it was frustrating because, funny enough, from where I live, about a mile and a half away, I can see the cars looking down, and they were moving because they didn't actually close. They opened and they closed at 7:30.
We have Boris Johnson in the studio. You are one of, as I said, 4 people who use this service every day. Have you got a question for him? Would you like to ask him something or tell him something that he might be able to improve?
Yeah, if he allowed the season ticket holders and Freedom Pass holders to use this with their season ticket, I think more people would use it. They could presumably have some link up, some financing through the Mayor's office to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to obviously to your reporter and to our customer for the suggestion. Actually, as I'm sure all listeners realise, it's far more than 4 people use it every day. Huge numbers of people use it, but we've got I think it was a particular type of oyster customer or something. They
you're always strong
on
oyster cars and fares.
And the key point I just want to get over, and I never tire of telling you this, Nick, but somehow or other I never seem to get it across, and it's probably my failing. This cable car, this Emirates Airline, is actually it has 2 things to be said for it, in my view. Number one, it's the only piece of transport infrastructure in this city that is going to cover both its capital and its revenue costs and its capital costs within 6 years, and that is very largely thanks to the sponsorship deal, but also because it's a great deal. The second thing is that it is very, very useful. You talk to Newham, you talk to the effect it's had in encouraging a sense of confidence, of growth in that docks area. Right. Why did the ABP people decide to put £6 billion investment, £6 billion into the Royal Albert Dock that will generate 20,000 jobs? It was partly because they were looking at transport investment, of which the cable car is an important part. It's not just a tourist attraction. It's something that is there to be for London. Of course, it also has a very important. It's a thing that people love using.
Safe landing to you, Tom. Before we go back to the calls, one question. Mr. Mayor, how many Transport for London staff have attended jazz workshops so they can study and be taught leadership?
I've the faintest idea. You seem to have the answer before you in a paper.
Civil servants, health bosses, transport officials from Transport for London have attended jazz workshops so that they can learn leadership. One civil servant said, "I was surprised to see the musicians, but as soon as they explained the link with behavioural change, a light bulb went on in my head." Is this a good way to spend money for TfL?
Well, let me. Don't forget that we've got rid of 25% of all directors at TfL. We have. Hugely shrunk the size of the.
You're supporting jazz workshops.
Of the. I don't know.
It's a mad
I haven't
idea,
been invited to
it's
participate.
A mad idea,
I haven't been invited to participate in jazz workshops.
Would you like to partake?
I will look at.
You'd like to go on a jazz workshop?
I might lead a jazz workshop. I don't think I
Can you play jazz?
No, but I will have a look. I'll have a look at the jazz workshops issue, and we'll see. I'll see if we can get rid of them, just as we have got rid of so many other pointless excrescences in the public sector, including 40 buildings around London.
They will go.
Got rid of.
The idea of Herbert sitting around listening to jazz music.
£5 billion.
What taught you to be a leader? You didn't need jazz music. What taught you to be a leader, Mr. Mayor?
Sheer guts and determination. And we go now to Nick in Wandsworth. Nick.
Morning, Boris. Morning, Nick.
Hello.
Yeah, quick question. Later this week, Boris is shutting a load of fire stations and taking away loads of pumps. I was just wondering what his answer would be to worst-case scenario to the family of a loved one, or worst-case scenario, family of a firefighter who was to die in one of these stations that he's just about to close.
Well, Nick, obviously that is the question that I've been dealing with over the last year or so that we've been having to deal with this issue, and this is something that I take very, very seriously. It's why we had a long consultation, and time and again I have actually interrogated Ron Dobson, who's a fantastic fire chief, about whether he and his team are absolutely confident that they can do this without in any way eroding London's safety, and they are, and they point out the figures showing that deaths from fire are coming down, and the number of fires themselves are coming down, and I have to take that seriously. And we had the court case, if you may remember, Nick. Several boroughs challenged me over the last few months, and they went to court. Camden, Islington, Tower Hamlets. They spent about £200,000 of taxpayers' money on a legal challenge, which has not been successful in any respect, and we are able to go ahead with the safety plan, and we think to continue to make London safer. But Nick, your fundamental question is the right one. It is a very, very.
Was, what would you say?
It is a very, very.
Yeah,
it is a very, very difficult decision.
The right one. The question is, what would you say?
I have.
If
the answer is that I have taken every possible consideration of the risks involved, and I've decided that it is the right way forward and that we can continue to make London safer from fire.
On the point of the consultation, is it not right that the consultation came back overwhelmingly telling you that they didn't want to lose the fire station? So you've just ignored that, haven't you?
Well, though it was actually, if you look at what happened, if you look at what happens with the consultation, it was very patchy, and you had some very, very strong response, some very strong defences of fire stations in some places, but in other places it was much less conspicuous. And it is very striking to me that at no stage in the discussions with the fire brigade, with the FBU, has there actually been a strike about this issue. And I think that is because people understand that there is a common sense behind this. It's pragmatic, and it's the way forward. And don't forget, Nick, there are no compulsory redundancies involved.
How striking is it that the Apollo Theatre incident just before Christmas, some of the firefighters that who attended were from 3 of the threatened fire stations?
I just don't think it is possible to draw conclusions from that. And I'd point out that the first firefighters on the scene, as I understand the matter, were from a station that is under no threat whatever. So,
right. But subsequently, as and when more firefighters were required, 3 of stations that will no longer be with us supplied kit or personnel. They won't be around anymore. What do we take from that?
I think what we can take from the fact that the first firefighters on the scene in Shaftesbury Avenue were from, and there was a great deal of support, obviously, within a very, very reasonable delay. I think they were in something like 3 minutes.
It was fantastic, of course. But God forbid it had been more serious, and nobody wishes that. How helpful would it be that 3 fire stations would have been shut?
I will have to get you. I mean, obviously, I can inquire. I don't believe it would have made any fundamental difference. And the key thing,
really?
if you look at what the 4 boroughs that took us to court, in every case, we are able to keep the response time to under the key 6-minute target. And that's the key thing, Nick. Can you deliver great firefighters to the spot in time? Can you keep fires, the numbers of deaths from fire and the outbreak of fires coming down? That's what we want to do.
I've only got a minute left. Rachel in Bexley asks, with the news that there is a TB epidemic on its way to some parts of London, I think she's over-egging that a little bit, do we need more forms of screening? You may be aware that there's major health concern there.
I am concerned about this. This is something that James Cleverly, actually, one of the Assembly members, has campaigned on. I do think it is something that we need to look at. It's something that
what do you mean by look at, Mr. Mayor? Some form of screening? Or
I'm not certain about the answer. As our listeners may know,
Shall we go back to the BCG?
I don't have responsibility for public health in the way that I think actually in some ways London should strategically have. I think there should be more responsibility to London government generally for healthcare in London. We should be leading public health campaigns in this way. I don't have those statutory responsibilities, but on the issue of TB, it's certainly something that we should look at in the London Health Board.
Why? And lastly from me, why is the hit television show Sherlock making fun of you?
Well, I think everybody's entitled to make fun. If people can't make fun of politicians, what has gone wrong with
You're a dithering, the BBC? Incoherent and self-interested idiot.
That is...
A mocked-up newspaper front page during Sunday's episode of the show contained a story claiming the Mayor of London planned to turn the Thames into a motorway. You're not mentioned by name, but it's one of your bizarre concepts, which included a recently mocked concept of putting an airport in the middle of the estuary. The page, which was seen on the television show, talked about the current mayor, and you're quoted as saying, "The fact of the matter is Londoners need to recognise our great naval history rather than navel gazing. This will get the traffic moving while invoking memories of Nelson and the like. Huzzah!" It finishes. Or,
huzzah! That's huzzah.
Why is Sherlock taking the mickey out of you and calling you dithering and incoherent?
Unbelievable. What can I think it is perfectly legitimate for people to satirise politicians, and there you go. But I don't rule out the possibility, by the way, that this is an attack on the previous mayor, who, after all, himself spent large sums of public money on investigating whether there should be a Thames estuary airport, and used to drivel on about putting people on the river. But unlike the previous mayor, I actually expanded river transport. We doubled the number of passengers on the river, and we're actually getting somewhere at last in sorting out our aviation capacity problem. So whatever the BBC may say, they're entitled to spend taxpayers' money attacking Conservative politicians. That's what they do. That's their raison d'être. And I don't in any way want to discourage them.
You've been listening to Ask Boris here on LBC 97.3, where a travel update is next.
LBC 97.3.
I was first told I had osteoarthritis 10 years ago. My knees were so painful that my doctor kept increasing the strength of my pills. At the first time the therapist fitted me with the Apos therapy device, I was taken aback. There was no pain in my knees. I can now walk a lot better than when I started.
If, like